really quick
Yes.
because many of you have actually collaborated with us as the Creative Research Lab, so you know what we're about. But essentially, Rofilwe and I wanted to start a way to really connect creative processes with research and to really get to a point where people started seeing our creative work as research because there's often a barrier. And from there, we started hosting seminars, collaborating, having some processes and discussions. And that has ultimately, we were very fortunate to get some funding from the NIHSS. And that has culminated in us wanting to put together this publication where we want to truly look at conversations with artists about creative processes and that call we all have and how we respond to it and how we respond to each other as artists when we collaborate and respond to ourselves and obviously respond to the world as artists. I hope that says enough.
Thank you so much, Karina, for that. Yeah, so we've been in existence since 2021. And it's been quite a lovely experience for us. So this is one of our big projects of the book. So so what I want you to, so now we're going into the book. So the book is called Call and Response. And I just want to do one little exercise. If you could all put on our mics. You don't have to put on your video, just your mic. So everyone just put on your mic. All right, so we all have our mics on. So there is a song that I had in my head. Why did I forget it now? Suddenly my mind just went, no. Like, oh wow, y'all did put on your mics. All right, so the song goes, E Makayeni, and then you respond, E Makayeni. Okay, it's just very simple. You're just gonna say that part because it's quite a long. I don't know why I remember them. Oh, let's do the most simple song that we all know. What's the simple song that we all know? We know.
There is a fire on the mountain.
Yeah, there's the one. That reminds me. Why does it remind me of Chipato? There's the one. That's the song we all know. Why must I teach you? But anyway, so yes, there's a fire on the mountain.
Fire.
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 Okay. You are clearly not connected. These are not the singers you are looking for. These are.
Ouch.
All right, thank you so much for indulging. So the idea of the book is based on that. It's this idea of call and response, and we all know it in some form or the other. One of our key conversations that we have and how we wrote it up, and you see in our write-up with Karina, is really about the idea that when we enter, so for example, thinking about an echo, when we enter a valley or a building, one of the, so I wanted to read you this part that we have about the synopsis of the book. When we enter a valley or an empty building, often historical architecture, a unique magic unfolds that is entirely about the presence of the individual. As we open our mouths and voice something, our sounds reverberate, bouncing off walls, rocks, trees, returning to us, altered, magical, haunting. This discovery often leads to a frenzy of repetition. Why do I sound so vibrant? This phenomena is the work of an echo, a call and a response that invigorates us into action and further creation. An echo represents the ghost of a present performing self, both ephemeral and fleeting, yet magical and lively. The artist's task is to capture the echo, to call to it, engaging with its fleeting nature. The essence of our work has always been to engage and critically destabilize. It is to shape how we perceive the sunset and how we understand the pauses between the notes. So this is what we come to and how we come to the book. we are called to the book because our work itself is about repetition. It's about, and how we've just engaged in this moment of repetition and echoing with each other. But the beauty of an echo and repetition is not that it's the same. It's that it differs in the moment in itself, but also that the echo and the repetition itself is about improvement or shifts or changes, or even not necessarily improvement, but something else happens. And so therefore, we're really interested in how then this book allows us to really explore the idea of creative research in our different formats, in our different artistic practices. So you'll hear everyone's work is very different artists are in the room. And all of that is also part of our own echoes. And I'm loving that at the beginning, Palesa highlighted that there is an echo, and there is an echo. So there is an echo. The book itself is the conceptualization of an echo and a call to you. And how then when the artwork calls to you, how do you respond back to the art? How do you respond in your research to the art? How do we always center the art? And I think it was very important for us with Karina also how we enter into this conversation with you guys, that we also center some form of art making. So the songs allowed for that we can also always find that the art always calls to us, and how do we then respond to it in ways that allow us to thrive. So this is basically what we wanted to talk about and where we are, and we've done the introductions, and this is our presentation for now. So we currently have contributors. I just wanted you to see the lay of the land from all over the world. We have colleagues from Canada, the US, Gina from Brazil, we have South Africa, we have the UK, we have the Philippines, and South Asia, and someone from Australia who is part of the Philippines. She's also working through the Philippines. So they're not able to come because of time differences, of course, and other things. But I think it's so that you see our spectra of contributions and where we would like to go with these conversations. So the structure of the book is, we've structured it into 3 parts. The first structure is conversations, and hence the call response. And you could, so the conversations are sometimes, some of them are literal conversations, you say, I say, or interviews. And this section features conversations between artists exploring their creative process and their outcomes of their research. So it is informed by specific artworks and performances and various media. What is also exciting, that's why we have an online presence of the book, is because a lot of the works are you have to experience them. So we have video, music, and we would like very interactive work, so that the artwork doesn't just sit in the book, but it actually performs from the book. So the section opens with short vignettes from us. All the sections will open with short vignettes from the editors, contextualizing those chapters. But mostly, we really wanted, even the concept vignettes is really sitting in the concept of performance and really creating those spaces where our work is performing with each other. And so we'd like to encourage you, as you're thinking also about your presentations, and we're going to feedback and all of that, but to really think how then your work performs itself. So we're really not interested in an academic book, and which is wonderful, because the publisher was very generous to say, yes, do what you need to do. And so this is not really, we're not trying to get those in nitty-gritties, but we really want the work to really speak to the idea of how is your art making, how are you practicing in more research ways, or how are you researching in more practical and performative ways, in however that means for you. The second part is reflections, and the second section of the book will then feature essays. These are also reflective essays. A number of them is about the work that has been done and the reflection, and considering how the creative process and the experiences shape the art. So, and this media then is also illustrated and framed by our vignette concept. So this is also varying disciplines, and these are individuals. And this is, for us, was like a kind of a conversation where someone is having actually a conversation. It's like Mandela's conversations with myself. I'm joking, but it's conversations with the art making and the work. And then the last part is discussions. And this last part is really looking at discussions and specific creative processes as with relevant theoretical frameworks. And this is for us much more where we kind of like allowing contributors to engage with how they are then informing theory, informing different thought processes that are happening within the academia. So here it's potential applications and the framing of the theoretical framing of the work. So so this is how we structured the book. So our process has been or is, we had the call, you all responded, yay, you submitted. We are now at the feedback, and this is our way of also feeding back and thinking through. So we did have some couple of conversations, informal conversations with different people, but mostly we are good. Most of the chapters are fine. We're ready to go. We just wanted everyone just to have a sense of what the book is. And so we will give feedback and ask for just slight shifts so that when we send it, we've sent parts of it to the publisher. So they just want to get it all together when we're sending it out to the peer reviewer so that we are clear around, because sometimes peer reviewers, you don't want them to come back and and give us weird comments. So we wanted all of us to be on the same page about what we're doing. So we are on step number 3 and 4 in a way that is working parallel. And that's how far we are at now. So yes, and that's all that we've got. Any questions, thoughts? Yes.
Hello.
Yes.
When is this likely to be published? I'm asking for some students that are also looking for scholarships and stuff like that. So the fact that you said actually there has been an acceptance, how does one sort of like maybe cite it in the CV or what I'm writing that there's this contribution? Do I also even speculate possible publication?
So we are hoping the publication will be cross fingers, next year, March. But that's all up to the publisher. So far, I think September, October, November, December, January. Yeah, 6 months. He had said that we would work through it. But so far, we don't particularly know. But in the meantime, what you can put when you're putting the article itself, you can say submitted, accepted. So it's accepted. And basically, we're now just waiting we're hoping to get peer reviews by the end of the year. And then that way you were able to, and that whole process will be done by March next year. So I think publication will be definitely March, if not. But we're happy that we are at this stage because we had a couple of publishers, but the difficulty all the time with the different academic publishers is the idea that when someone wants to direct us towards an academic paper, and so we're very grateful that the one who won our hearts, was the one who's willing for us to go with a very performative experience. And just to let you know, it's HSRC. And once the book is published, and it's going to be online, and the book, but also the book after 6 months of publication will be available online as an ebook, so you can also still access it and all of that. So that's the lovely part about also publishing with HSRC, because then the book itself becomes open, unlike the other ones that we have. Any other thoughts? Maybe you don't have a question. Maybe you are left with something that you're wondering about. Maybe you have a comment. Maybe the spirit moves you to comment rather than question. Yes.
Oh, mine is just a thought and a comment to the title of the project, because it sort of reminds me of ancient or African ancient folklore or folk tales, where when they gather, whoever who's going to do a performance, maybe a poet or whoever who's gonna maybe be praise poetry for the king or whatever the poem will be directed to in that particular event, he would or she would say, kgomo e a gangwa. Then the audience will respond, e gangwa ke mang? So that kind of call and response, the cow is being milked or is about to be milked, then the audience will say, who is milking the cow? As a way of interactive or performative gesture that involves everyone who is so it just a thought that I thought the title of the project or of the book, Call and Response, is such a profound title that has greater resonance back days.
Thank you. I think also it's wonderful that you mentioned that, because also that's how we also learn songs. I was thinking about it. That's how we learn a lot. We learn by repetition. We learn by that, I mean, even in high school mathematics, that's how we learn to, calculate. And the thing is, so I think there's a lot of things that we already, it's embodied in our bodies around how we learn and how we know. And so, yeah. Okay, so we're going to move on to the next part of our day, of our morning, so that we don't keep you for long. We've asked a couple of you, with the time that we have, we might not get to everyone, but we would like a couple of people to maybe do a presentation about their work, what they're working on. We would also then let you know where it's placed within the book, and then we could have a short conversation about the different pieces, so people could then give feedback. I think the idea of the presentations is to give the other contributors a chance to see what's in the book and what other people are doing. And so we thought that it would be great for people to do those presentations to know where's the scope and where the lengths and breadths of it are. So I don't want to be that teacher to call you. You are free to share your screen if you've got a PowerPoint you want to share, or you can just speak to it. I will keep the time. I'll be the kind of timekeeper. And so anyone who would like to share what are they working on? No pressure. If your co-writer is not here or is here and you're not talking to each other, text them quickly and say, hey, I'm about to present. All right. Anyone? Hopefully I'm not going to be that teacher says, yes, Katlego. Yes, Lalu.
Sorry, did Katlego and then me?
No. I was making a joke there. Please, go to you.
Okay, thank you very much. I can see that my co-writers are in the room, and that is Nokulunga Masia and Siposetu Mankai. We had an opportunity of exploring photography as language for story generation in applied theater. We are in applied theater, which is a field that unapologetically says, yes, we can be interdisciplinary, because when we collaborate, we grow. So there is one of the practitioners that also just had a bit of an influence in our work. He's based in Brazil. His name is Augusto Boal, and he did what he called experimentations. So I facilitate learning at Rhodes University, and at honors level, I had this idea of how do we begin to experiment. And the experimentations that they had done was to use photography, and out of photography generate stories. And it was quite interesting from different angles, even from the translanguaging point of view, how what we look at actually may have strong resonance with the insider perspective. And so our understanding we may be looking at one thing, but our interpretations are also informed about our lived experience. So I invited a guest, a photographer here in Makhanda, and the photographer spent time with the students, introducing the language of photography so that they could consciously take some photographs. So we have a conversation. I'm having a conversation with the students, reflecting on this experience when they started, what they say they didn't know. And also we even challenge each other. What do you think? You say you don't know. Then they also have instances where they speak back to what the photographs meant for them. As we are speaking, we also go through an exercise of how we want to see consciously how the photographs could sort of like be a generative tool towards towards writing of stories. And I have found that quite fascinating in terms of how the languages and some of the principles that are found in applied theater somehow emerged. Things like negotiation, things like framing, and we have had a conversation that even along the way we do have reference, because also I try to tell the students all the time, please let us reference. So it's a bit informal, and even when I was reading it recently, I do believe that it is true that there are some people, and I won't mention names, but they say like a lot, and it was quite interesting. So it was a bit hard for us at first to say just a conversation, but indeed we were elated to learn that this generation and this conversation that we wanted to explore generation of some content that could lead to some form of a script or a story is something that has been favorably considered for the paper. I would like to pause here, and I see we have about 2 more minutes. If you have anything to say, Nokulunga or Siposetu, please, could you?
Okay, just to add to what Dr. Lalu saying is also what is lovely about this piece is written in script format. So I love that it is a script, it's in a script format. It allows for a different way of thinking about how do we present our work and how we're reflecting about the work. I think it's a lovely conversation that you're having across generationally, across mediums, photography and applied theater, and also a reflective space and a reflective piece. So that's one thing I wanted to add. So anyone who has questions or thoughts or something that they might be wondering about, or I mean, it's a very quick 5-minute feedback session. So we could just take 2 questions or thoughts, then we can move on to the next one.
Okay.
I haven't had questions, but
I don't have questions.
Yes.
So where are we placed, and Kikupana, can I also say something else?
Yes. So you are placed on the conversations in the first section under conversation. And in this section, we're looking at conversations between artists as in dialogue form and their creative process. And under that section, maybe I can just mention who's there. Is Melanie and Rifilwe, Silwani, Nokulunga, and Siposetu Manga, Karina and Sonia Masai and Franco Prinsloo. Then the one other person that was there, Palace has asked to be removed there. We're going to put her in discussions. Yes. So that's where you're placed. Yes, you can ask your next question.
Thank you. No, my next one is just a request to speak about something else, because I just have an emergency I need to return to, so
Okay.
I'm not sure if I'll be able to be here for the whole time. But my co-writers might be.
Okay, no problem. I think Karina, do you have anything to say? Yes, Antonio, you have something, question, share.
Yeah, I was really curious. I noticed you reflected on a kind of feeling, well, your feeling, the surprise that you had in terms of how well the students responded to these processes. But is there any sort of particular learnings or discoveries or influences that they articulated for their own art practice or their own applied theater work? I'm just sort of curious about what they took away from it that will inform work that they do later.
Okay. Yes. Nokulunga and Siposetu, would you want to say something?
Yes, hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh, hello everyone. I'm Unoglunga. So to answer your question, so I am doing a project now, an applied theatre project for my playback theatre project for my applied honors course. And I am using kind of the techniques. Sorry? Oh, so I'm basically using kind of the techniques and the ways of storytelling from photography to kind of capture my journey of the playback theater performance that I am doing. Because for ethical reasons, because I'm working with learners, I can't be taking pictures that reveal their identity. So I'm trying to find creative ways that capture the essence of the journey and the theme that we'll be working with for my playback theater project. So that is one thing that I took away from the process. And also I now know a lot more about my phone, like the different settings that I can use to capture pictures differently, different lighting, all of that. So it's definitely been important and an advantage to have had the lessons, because now I'm using them in my project. Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you for that. Yeah, so it's a very exciting project, and I think what's really lovely about it is also the very personal reflections that are in the write-up, and also how the pictures themselves that are about the environment and where you all are working in the university, and how that influences. I also like that you also reflect around your own. So there's something about also writing your own writings, and including them there. So thank you so much. So it's a very exciting project. Okay, you want to move on to the next one with Makhaula?
Thank you. Yes,
Oh.
thank you so much. Once
Then
upon
we'll
a
go
time.
to you, and then we'll go to Lalu, because Lalu says she needs to run.
Thank you so much. Oh, Mahol, can I go? Can I speak?
Yes.
Meeting. Yes.
Okay. Once upon a time, when students come to the university every year, there is a production that is made. It's called OTI. It introduces students to the university environment. And this performance, it's almost like standard, but every year, students that are performing need to inform it with the issues that are coming up. The Department of Students Affairs commission this kind of work, and then throughout the years, different directors come and do this kind of work. So at some point, we got to be introduced to playback theater by a wonderful performer and artist, Mamadli from Mankokosani. And during that time, there was a lot of interest. One of the people that got interested in the room, and that is Matumisang, because Matumisang started to use playback theater to almost like debrief or speak back to the issues that are being baked. So it was wonderful because when Matumisang was here at Rose, there was a very interesting interface between directing and applied theater. But now she left, and every year, Lalu knock, knock, knock. Could we use playback theater as a way of maybe just reflecting on these issues that have been made? So directors can say yes or no. 2024, the director for this particular play, OTI, was Makhaula Ndebele, created a play called Are You Make Sure, which also took the similar process of being generative from the students. This time around, Makhaula had said yes to playback theater, and the cohort of the performers, about 6 of them, were applied theater students. So in applied theater students, playback theater is one of the forms that they use. And so then the idea was, how could we have this play? Makhaula is a director. How could we use playback theater? Lalu is an applied theater practitioner. How do we have that kind of a conversation? And so the production was made. There was nothing in between to separate the directed play and this spontaneous one. And so we're just exploring around switching of the lights, of the spotlight. In the first one, which is directed by Makhaula, the spotlight is on actors. See me. And in the second one, which is facilitated by Lalu, the spotlight gets to shift. It now is on audiences. And then it was playback theater was conducted by Nokulunga Masia. And because it's also an opportunity for them, for the students to practice what they are learning, for example, in class, it was quite hard for some students, for example, who are doing acting, to play with this notion of spotlight on me or spotlight on audiences. And we actually became an agreement that when we are able to have an opportunity to bust how named languages in South Africa, we're able to really explore a more nuanced and responsive approach to story generation, and subsequently telling that would say that how do we see discomforts being ways through which we can actually deepen our engagements towards a theater making. Thank you, Makhaula. I don't know if there's anything that you might want to say from the director perspective. So even a little bit also, we also do highlight, for example, some theories that inform a little bit of how we do what we do and the choices thereof.
Yes, from my side, I think I'll be brief. I think it was very important to have that conversation because I think I've been very interested in how we Africans used to perform, or how Africans perform outside of what is the arrival of Europe, and what is then now termed to be contemporary performance or theater, to put it that way. And the idea of call and response, which has been mentioned, is an important one, in the sense that the conversation between the audience and the performers on stage. And although it is kind of like the proscenium setup, where the audience is right in front of the actor, rather than in a circular sort of setup, or in the round, we were very keen to see how how that happens. So when Selwani first came and asked and said, you know, this normally happens. We usually have a break in between. So it was essentially in two halves, and I thought let's merge those halves so that it's one product or one experience, so that you have the sense of these two different ways of interacting with the audience as one. And I think what came out of it was a very strong experience. And so the paper is a reflection on that. So I was very excited for the opportunity to reflect on it.
Yeah, I also, it's a really lovely paper. Also, it's sitting within the discussion section because of it really is reflecting around two theories: playback and acting, or directing, or conceptually. So we thought that it's a really it is contributing to theory around how do we reimagine also playback, or how do we reimagine the ideas of acting and being on stage. Other colleagues, questions or something that you are left with and you're wondering, and then Karin and I will speak back to what we've noticed about the piece. Anybody else? Yes.
Yo, Batu, shine. Kimatumi-san.
Yes. Shout out to Matumi-san.
I think it's just, it's really wonderful to see, I don't know, Lalu and I were really experimenting with that first one. We were introduced to playback, and it was, a very profound thing for me, and created in me a desire as a director to make the circle bigger, if that makes sense. That the conversation on stage needed to involve the audience, and could involve the audience, and that idea of story sharing, is really something that I've taken forward in my practice. So I enjoy the extension of it, and it's still the experimentation of it, and the wonderful things that it offers on a pedagogical level as well. To do something like that in a university space, for me, is really profound. So just really excited, just an expression of excitement on that and for that. So yeah.
Thank you. Karina?
Yes, thank you so much for that beautiful paper. I'm very excited about it, and it was incredibly interesting. As somebody who works with actors a lot, I found it fascinating. And it's lovely that it is sort of about you are having a conversation about a conversational process, which is wonderful. I think we will obviously send feedback about your paper. But I think what is really exciting about this specific book for this kind of work is that we're so used to always having to write to educational journals, or journals where we have to really validate the educational process. So I think in this specific paper, we can, although it falls in the discussion section, we can really tap into the huge creativity that went into this, because I think often we kind of undermine the amount of creativity that goes into educational process. So thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, so yes, we will write back, but the big part for us was to bring more of the processes that you did. So in rehearsal, in that making moment, in the conversation that you're having, because it's so on stage, what we see on stage and the two halves that we see on stage is the final product, but there's a conversation that you're having already at the beginning, and coming up with this and merging the two styles, or my mind is blocked on what they are. And so how do they come together? And then what is that conversation that you're having before? But it's really exciting. So thank you so much for sharing. Okay, and we move to the next one. Melanie, And after
Yes.
Melanie, we will do a 2 minutes dance movement. But no, we'll be I'm joking. Melanie, let's go. Sorry. Yes.
Yes. Wait a minute. So good morning, everyone. My presentation is a little bit different. Just the title of the article is Exploring the Performance of Identity and Silence in Ceramic Works of Melanie Roberts, which is me. And I am collaborating with Dr. Refilwe Lepere. So that's an honor. Also then a little bit of a background is that I'm coming from a visual background and she's coming from a performance background. So there's a lot of backwards and forwards and I'm trying to understand where the two line up in the conversation. So this is also a very conversational article where she interviewed me about my process and the making of my processes. Slide 2, again, a little bit of a background. As you can see, Dr. Lepere is quite a shiner. So I'm a visual artist. She's more of an academic theater maker, a writer and narrative specialist, embodied learning practitioner, where I'm an educator, ceramicist, sculptor, and creator. What I've also realized in when we started the conversation that we share a lot of similar themes in our making, in our productions, and what interests us, which is cultural identity, race, borders, trauma, and from her side, intersectional identities of Black women and the performance of labor. A little bit of background on my artist statement and also that will feed into the selected works we had conversations about. For this specific body of work, I chose the title Somewhere in Between and Not Represented. And it deals with a collective memory of story and that I always felt like invisible, right? In a classification, I'm colored, but still in conversation or in environments, I'm still in the middle. I'm colored, I look Black, I speak Afrikaans. So there's always this reason of explaining where I belong, oh, jy praat so mooi Afrikaans or whatever the case might be, of wanting, having to validate why I'm colored, but I look Black. So, this artist statement was also part of a call for an exhibition through the EVC, which stands for Exploring Visual Culture. And the exhibition was grounded on the belief that memory is the cornerstone of constructing of diverse identities and offering a platform for emerging artists. And my response to the exhibition theme was to delve into my personal narrative of being a colored woman in South Africa and the fact that the colored term donates a racial mixed community that is loaded with complexities. And the absence of concrete in concrete history, records, and trying to, make clear of where I stand with that and a clear collective cultural code that makes representing this hybrid identity both challenging and essential. So in our conversations, there was a lot of themes, a lot of flow, a lot of questions, reflective conversations through dialogue. And we started, or she interviewed me, asked me about where the work sit in space, what is it about identity? What is it about the silence of my work that I want to communicate with the audience? And also then how I go about my creative research and how I allow my artworks to kind of like embody the emotions I want them to articulate within in a specific presence, highlighting the conversations of borders and belonging and the aesthetics of the work. How does that contribute to the making process and where it's sitting? So in those conversations, I also find that they are quite layered with performances because it's a constant
backwards and forwards, reflective ways, and then also reflecting on what it is that I do in the studio, because often as visual artists, we tend to work quite isolated and, we work quite intuitively, but there comes a point where you kind of like have to just channel back and kind of like look at what it is that you are making, the materials you are using, and how they impact the statement that you want to make. So this is a very short kind of like presentation where I would like to introduce the two works we selected. This is a form I produced in 2021, yes, and it was part of the top 20 selections for the Time and Manele Awards. That it's titled The Black Form, and as you can see, it's moving tremendously away from the traditional expectation of what ceramics is seen as, the everyday object, your cup, your towel, your plate, your bowl, the traditional pots. So here, my forms are becoming very monumental, very confrontational, and they are also standing quite on a pedestal where you have to engage and you have to think about the everyday assessment of your experience, and I want the viewer to explore or reimagine what it feels like for me in those states of being somewhere in between and not represented. So some of the main frames, and these are just a few of them, as we started looking in a conversation of where ceramics is currently sitting and the shifting of what ceramics is doing within the contemporary setting. And as contemporary as the other mediums are moving in the direction of being very, abstract, ceramics is still seen as a craft medium. And what I'm doing with these forms is I'm also testing the boundaries of how far the medium can be pushed to move away from this in-betweenness. I use in multiple art forms, I use different materials to engage in the surface. I use unconventional ways of treating or altering the surface of the forms. Again, we also started speaking about ceramics as an artistic language, where it sits, how what does it present, how does it sit in an exhibition space amongst other materials, other, sculptural, glass, printmaking, because it still feels, or it's still being represented as this invisible medium. It's not quite being recognized, but by doing this, by altering the form of how I think and sculpt and make, it already creates a shift within the diameters of what ceramics should be, and then also breaking the mold of where it can lead up to. Another theme was the
Mel,
yes,
our time is gone.
Our time, am I over?
Yes.
Okay, I'm gonna just brush through. I'm just gonna brush through, and then you can fill in the spots. And then also another form. This form is called specifically Somewhere in Between and Not Represented. And obviously, in the article, you'll get a sense of what the artwork stands for and how it's made and what where it's sitting. Both of them are in collections, so in a sense, they are also performing in their own spaces. So I've made them in a very intuitive way, interactive way, and the performance and the role I play making them is also quite substantial. But the fact that they are now out of my space and they are traveling individually, that in that sense they also become quite performative. Okay, and that's it. That's it, dog. Now we're reflecting. That's it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. Sonia is saying, as a conversation and dialogue seems to be at the essence of collaboration, I'm curious as to how the dialogues between yourself and Refilwe influenced your form of making now. How are they influencing your form of making?
Well,
yeah.
Do you want to go or should I go?
No, it's your form of making. Me, I'm not making.
what I can say is, since the conversations I had with Refilwe, I become more attentive in terms of where I start off. What I've also realized is in the most softest form of clay, there needs to be also this backwards and forwards reflection of what you intend them to look like, which I previously didn't acknowledge. I would normally just go into the studio, depending on the day or the theme or the call, and I would produce. But now there's a sense of I need to kind of like let the clay be part of the conversation before it becomes the final form. So there in selves is a reflective process, because I can't, I feel it's for me to just oppose myself on the clay now is very difficult, because I need to also have that dialogue in terms of where I wanted to steer, which direction I wanted to be at the end of the day. So there's a lot of mindfulness that goes with it now, if that answers the question.
Very Sonia saying very insightful. Thank you. Any other conversation? That's our time. Okay. All right. Anyone else? Okay, so we will move on to, thank you so much, Melanie. I think it's very exciting. We are also in the conversation section of the paper. So which is really fun and exciting. So we'll look at someone who's in the, so we've seen conversations, we've seen discussions. Anyone who wants to, yes, Direko, yes.
Hi everyone. Yeah, I'm not really prepared, but okay. So I think, I don't know if my cousin is still, I think she's out, but I approached her to be in conversation with her. Her name is Mpinane Kobela. And so she's an architect, but she has like a lot of artistic, like she's also in love with art, but I mean, I consider architecture an art form. So does she. And the work or the conversation is basically, it's coming from her project, which she did for, I think, her master's project, where she was exploring, and the title of her thesis was Documenting and Translating Selected Details in Basotho Design Culture into Contemporary Architecture. And so there's that piece, and then there's me, who I mean, I think I'm a jack of all trades, which is this was a very experimental piece. But I'm coming more from the drama, applied theater, drama therapy, storytelling. And so currently where I am, I think I'm trying to make sense of my own identity, but also, what is the thing? The English is escaping me. But anyway, like roots, heritage, and all of that. So I was going to write a very literal piece, but as I was writing the abstract, because originally I had a different abstract, as I was writing the abstract, I sort of found myself writing a fictional story. So what I thought was a historical fiction wasn't. It was probably something of like a magical realism. So I tried to combine actual material from the architectural project that was exploring weaving. So the story is centered around how weaving can be translated into architecture and design of the Basotho specifically. So the way in which I wanted to have this conversation was to have different characters that embody different grass or different, weaving with grass. And some of these grass materials is like kokwa, lefirwane, titapo. I'm probably butchering some of them, but essentially they all become like characters and places in which the main characters are sort of telling the story. And I try to capture the essence of the dialogue that my cousin and I were having around her work, but capturing it in a story form. I don't really have a lot to say, apart from I probably need feedback from Lefilwe and Karina, but essentially, I was just trying to like fictionalize a dialogue, but also making references to actual material. Yeah, and I don't know where I'd be placed because it felt very abstract. It sort of came to me. It wasn't very academic. It was really like a story. So I'm going to stop there. Very brief. Maybe questions can clarify it since I'm a bit unprepared. I just thought I'd throw it in there. Yeah.
Okay, great. No, there's a lot of hearts, lots of hearts, very lots of hearts. But we've got a question, Lalu. Yes, got a question.
Thank you very much. It's just a comment of appreciation, just wonderful. And I'm just thinking through, I don't know if it's something that you might want to consider around transknowledge, because as you're speaking about these different types of dwang, they in terms of architecture, actually, they also serve different purposes. And it would be wonderful, like when you said, I'm probably butchering some of them, which is okay, because then the characters could butcher them, because we are also losing a lot of some of these ways of knowing and being. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Lalu. So there's a section somewhere in there that tries to give context to the grass and also like what the grass is used for typically. So I try to like creatively make like reference points. And there's also a little chart, like a little actual pictures of like the different grasses and their uses and things like that. But it was an experiment.
We love the experiment. We're very excited about it and we love it. I think part of it is, and also this is why we wanted to have this conversation, is that there's a fear that we have because we've been in academia so much and we want to look academic and it must, feel, sound, that you need to trust the art making. And I think what will be, because right now you've placed the pictures, the figures at the end, right? So you've done this beautiful, you've done this beautiful conversation that you're having, but you're also telling the story. But then you're like, hey, so I think you need to bring it in and put the grass and the figures and the song. I mean, also what's lovely, you'll see with Sonia and the piece of Sonia, they have, and Omoto's piece, you've got the musical score in there. What would be nice is maybe if you could find somebody to record or sing us the song in your own. We're not really, worried about it being brilliant, but find the song and then put it in where the story is, where it should be in the stories, rather than a figure 1, figure 2, but put it in where you want it in the story. And then that way it brings the story alive. And then the story also becomes, becomes an experience. And Jemima will speak back to how she's imagining how these, so I think because you've got really those notes, the musical notes that can easily be made alive with song and stuff. The other way to think about this, because at the moment with your worry about it being flat or, you could also read it out loud and we can have a recording. And you hear with Antonio's work, there's a recording of when he reads the poetry and it's just like, yay, so there is a record. So if you could want to maybe record the story and tell the story, and then we can then put also that recording with the write-up, and then that way we can hear you with the music, with the sound of the grass and the architecture, how it would sound, that's also something. But it's really exciting. So I think let's not, for everyone, for all of us, I think we shouldn't be worried about if it's, this is where we are academic. Us being here, it's academic. It's our being that makes it academic. Yes. All right. Coolio. Okay. I would maybe like 1 more, 2 more people, and then we can so that I was gonna say, but yeah, and then we can close up. So anyone else who still moved to speak, 2 more people, and then we can then close up and let Jemima finalize our day.
Hello, can we jump in?
Yes.
Hello everyone.
Direka, you are in reflections, you're in the reflection section, and in the reflection sections we have, sorry, before you go in, we have Chipape, Katleho, Nondwe, Antonio, Nicholas, Louis Marie, and Direko. So
cool, thank you.
And then, yes, yeah. That's great. Sure. Go ahead, please.
Hello, everybody. Yeah, so our paper is based on a theater production that we worked on earlier this year called Jelly. And our article is titled "The Song of the Jelly Will Never Be Silenced: Recollections from the Writer and Director of the Play." So for us, maybe I'll speak for myself and then you can speak for yourself. I experience creativity as multiple calls, constantly ringing in my head, in my being, in my spirit. And it's usually those calls that tend to not go away that eventually will lead to some kind of activity. And that was the case for this play as well. I think the very, very first call came when I was teaching the text Sundiata, an epic of old Mali, which looks at the history of the people of Mali. I think many of us will know the story of Mansa Musa and how he was the richest person, one of the richest people in history. But discovering the story invited me into the world that kind of set that wealth up for him. And it just felt like there wasn't anything in the current contemporary writing experience that I was finding that resonated with what I was feeling whenever we read that text. And in teaching, there's this thing, and I don't know if this is the same for all of us, because I imagine many people in here have been teaching, whether in the university or in schools, but there's this notion of the lecture as a performance causes you to kind of tap into, some of these, like Karina was saying, there's so much creativity that goes into education. And I was constantly left feeling like very alive whenever I, had lectures with this text. And so I would speak to Matumi-san. I'm a writer, amongst other things, and she directs. And we kept on speaking about this desire to make something together. And then I got a call from Dr. Lepere for the New X Reading Festival. And as with many things, actually, a lot of calls start with Dr. Lepere saying, hey, we need to do this thing. And that is usually a strong enough, I can trust that call to be strong enough to generate some kind of material. And that led to a first draft that was really just two characters named Pa Lipule, just going, Pule, Pa, Kopate ngwanake, yetla pa, okay, yeah, And if anyone is Setswana, that last part, it's like, it feels like whenever you go into a Tswana household and there are older people who are there, that's kind of where the conversation will go, this notion of, yeah, and there's something about, the call and response nature of that. And after the New Works Festival, we got some feedback and came to discover that really one was trying to write a story about a story that kind of has been interrupted, and trying to go back and pull from that place in order to see what might still be of use to us today. And so at some point I thought I was writing about an Uber driver. At some point, I thought I was writing about this relationship between people who were maybe lovers. And then eventually we realized that it's the story of a pair of fraternal twins who come from a lineage of Jelly. And Jelly, maybe some people might know that as a griot, or what we might think of as Imbongi. It's the word that the people of Mali, the Mande people, use to speak about their own storytellers, historians, diviners, and all of these things. And so there were a lot of rich connections to our own historical experience that it felt like was enough removed from our everyday that we could engage with a narrative that maybe might not be easy to sit with in the context of some of the Afrophobic tendencies that we've been seeing in society. And so, yeah, the play became this space of investigation. And as we were going, different things just started calling out to us, right? So our paper then thinks about those calls that were transformative, or at least very generative in the process. So what the first call being the call from the text, the second call being the call from music. So when I was in Joburg, a friend of mine took me to a friend of his who's a music producer, and he had been making South African hip hop using Mali music. And we were kind of already in this thing. And, so then he gave that to us and it became this, we were just kind of in a world where things were calling and we were responding through the process. Would you like to take it from there?
Okay. So as Katlego said, he's a writer amongst other things, and I think I'm a theatre maker and director. And so I just became curious about lifting the text off paper. And I guess that was the call. And there was a festival called Theatre in the Dark where we were invited to create work that could exist in stage 8 load shedding. So no dependence on electricity or electrical light. And so very late at night, we kind of quickly put in a proposal for that, using Jelly as the base text, which I don't know if it existed at that point. It exist. It was just a conversation, and then got it, and I guess the call from the dark was something very significant for me, and still, Africa is seen as a dark continent in very many ways, but there was for me there was something about the metaphor of the darkness as rich, as evocative, as full, like brimming with story, and color and light of its own. And this idea of making theater in the dark was very fascinating for me. So then that was one of the big calls for me, transformative calls for me. And then we took the text to the floor. And so that final call becomes an invitation for audience members to come in and hear the story of these two fraternal twins, this story that comes from Mali, but is performed by South African actors, and to come and join us in the dark. And that was, I guess that's the reflection that we sit with now.
And if I may also share, somewhere along the way, I'm not a visual artist, first of all, but I was invited to this thing, we were painting together, and the thing that kind of came up became a kind of guiding light for us, or at least for me in my process. I'm not a painter, but this is supposed to be like an elephant, and this elephant kind of became an image that carried some of the, it's almost like it became a North Star for entering into the space where the calls were ever present. And so it stays with us, wherever we are talking about the work.
All right. Thank you. Really exciting. And also, just to mention that Jelly is part of our upcoming publication with the Writers Lab. And so it's interesting, like it's a full circle. We've got different moments of the different iterations of our work. So it's very much full circle. So exciting to then see its iteration in different ways. So so we have a upcoming publication, and Kadingale Makhato was just reminding me that he read it, also part of our peer review for the plays. So really wonderful stuff. Any other reflection? One reflection from Makhato, he says, you may say you're not a painter, but you painted. You painted. So right, bless. Auslalu.
Thank you so much. Just the notion of darkness, a very powerful analogy that has been made about the continent. And for me, it feels like when Direko was talking about this kind of like a discomfort or fear about, am I academic, am I not academic? It feels like we are in this tunnel, and this publication and the story, one of the stories that I just heard right now, and how Matumisang was framing darkness of the continent, that we are in the process of birthing light. And it just excites me how you have used this analogy of darkness in terms of how the continent may be perceived and the possibilities it offers. Enkosi.
Agreed. And I think what's wonderful about Jelly is that it says that we've always been an enlightened continent. And even the framing of darkness is one that is brought in. And that's, I really thank you, Lovely.
Karina?
Yes, thank you so much, Katlego, and your contributor for such a rich conversation. It's fascinating for me that Lalo immediately hooked onto the notion of darkness, and almost darkness being that void that we all face as artists. I think because that immediately also jumped out for me as something that you could maybe unpack deeper in the paper. And I think it's really difficult, or it's an unknown. We go into darkness when we have to write a paper as a conversation. It's a kind of an unknown that we all step into, and I know it can be scary. It certainly was for me, but the conversation I helped to document. But just listening to how beautifully you guys framed it now, verbally.
Yes, we want to do a podcast.
We want to do a podcast.
We didn't say that. yeah, we want to do a podcast. Yeah.
Yes.
Just gonna bold that. Yes.
Thank you. That's all.
Okay, great. Then I think that could also then translate to that, because I think it's you in your write-up you are very lebanyane, man. You are very brief about this, but it's such a rich experience. And also I think imagery-wise, Jemima will talk about it, but imagery-wise, there were lovely, beautiful images that you all took, the dark, the ones with the light, with the lanterns. So bring them in and include them, and everyone also your pictures. So some of them are but would like bigger ones. So when we put them on the website, so that we're able to work with that. Palisa, yes.
Hi everyone. Nami, I'm super excited by this. You see, the political scientist in me is coming out, and it just got so excited when I heard you speak about, this idea of darkness, right? And linking it to questions around how Africa had been perceived, right? This dark continent. I love the way that your work is subverting that. And I just thought, Mhlambe, I should add this. I don't know if it will be productive for you guys or not, but I was thinking about, in that piece that was edited by Andile Mqintama and other people, Biko Lives, there's that contribution by Frank B. Wilderson, and he speaks about Blackness as absence. And I think this would be, once again, like just this notion that even in a room full of Black people in whatever context, because we live in a white supremacist world, we get a sense that there's still something missing, right? And I like that even now this concept that you have of darkness does the work of subverting that and making us think of Blackness and darkness as brimming, right, in and of itself. So thank you for that.
Thank you so much. So we are rolling. We are good. And thank you so much. We're looking forward. You saw Chipape has put in there his review. Okay.
Yes.
Man, Batung.
We are moving, Chief. We are moving.
Who busy?
Yes.
All right. I think we will move to Jemima's section now, because we're about to, otherwise we'll be late and we want to close. And if you've got questions for her. So maybe welcome Jemima she's our online editor. So she's going to be the one with Ltonolo coming after you for your pictures, videos, recordings, all of those things. Please respond. Welcome.
Hi, thank you very much there. Yes, so the website, you and Karina spoke about how you want to bring everything together. Like everyone's talking about the presentations now, which is very, very interesting. But I have just a brief list of things that would really help me with the website. So a short biography of everyone that's participating. So you'll put your artistic biography, then obviously the works that you're in collaboration with the Creative Research Lab, a short summary, and if you'd be interested, you could also share the document with me that we could upload as a link onto the website should you want to share it with the public. Then the attachments. So any visual content, or it can be audio or music with regards to the project would help a lot. You can send me links on Google Drive or WeTransfer, whatever would be easiest for everyone. And then when it comes to imagery, I'm a photographer myself, so it's just I have to highlight the importance of consent when it comes to images. So if you work with kids or workshops, just to cover all bases, please make sure that everyone consents to the use of the images for the website purposes, because I won't be able to upload that knowing that you may not have, just to cover all our bases. So it can include videos, audio, it can be music or anything you've uploaded to Spotify or YouTube. I am able to embed links, which takes me to the next point of links. Any platform that you already use to publish your work or share your process would really be beneficial. It can be anything from social media to website, anything that is used by everyone. And yeah, that's about it on my side. But yeah.
Thank you so much, Jemima. We are going to ask everyone to, it is going to be a bit of a not a fun exercise. So because we've got two publications, so we've got the book one where we with the book and the pictures. So everyone, so if, because I think a couple of us have got pictures in there, but the pictures are small. And so when you're publishing for a book and we want the book to be quite nice quality. So if we could ask everyone to go back to their pictures, once we've given also feedback, when you submit, resubmit, please make sure that your pictures are at least 1 megabyte. The size is 1 megabyte, and then put it in such a way that it's publication friendly. So just making sure that the pictures are nice and big, because we are looking at we did a book last year with Sonia, Jemima. Katlego, did you get copies? I haven't seen you to give you copies of your books. We did a very lovely
Yes.
You got okay. So we did a very lovely, and as you can see, Jemima took very nice pictures, but the pictures can work. You see across, well, they work very nicely. So if you can have like a nice, so let the picture sit. Don't squash it. I know we are more of performers and writers, so we want to squash the picture to be this small, but let the picture sit in its size so that when we submit it to the publisher, they can have a very nice, good quality picture. Okay, so that is one way. Then we're going to send you another document, and I'll show you now, and just to share with you, the other document that we have is a article template, and this is the way we want to share the article on the website. And this is what Jemima was talking about, the idea of linking and the links that you might have. So this is another document of, and we would like you to just, for this one, for the website, is to, I guess we can do it, I don't know, but yeah, but we're going to send this one separately from the other, so that this article that sits on the website can sit in this form, and all of that. So, la one again. Very simple. Ne? Angit. No?
Yebo.
Okay. Yes. So it will just help Jemima. So Jemima's got her hand up, but it will help Jemima to be able to know where things go and how you want, or where things go with what. Because sometimes when we send just files of this is the link and this is a video file and then this is, and then we don't know where it links. So it might be that it looks differently to Yes, Jemima.
Sorry, I just wanted to mention that I will add the links to previous sites or websites that I helped create. So the Nexus one that you guys were part of and another one, so that everyone can just have an idea of the potential idea of the website.
Yes, thank you. Please do that so that everyone can see how we can look. So yeah, so please do that. So we're hoping that this would be a nice site that will sit for long, and then we're also bringing in other colleagues with different, especially with MA programs that are doing practice as research. So we've gotten a number of colleagues saying, oh, you know, so our students have got short write-ups. Could we place it? Do you have a public? And we're like, oh, we've got a website. So once the website is up, it's gonna grow into that form and in that format. So that's why we're setting up these systems now, and that we can then be able to maintain it and keep it going further. But that's the idea. So I'm sorry, because you are the first guinea pigs and we are trying this out. You're going to have to do double duty. You're going to do the one we sent to the publisher, and then you're going to do this one for our online one. So do please ask kissing, ne? Ask kissing. Okay, so please, yeah, we will be in contact soon. Any questions, any thoughts? Anything else as we close now?
Who go first?
Okay, thank you. I just wanted to ask when the revisions are due, or when you're gonna need the new text.
Or the new revisions.
Yes.
It's the end of September, but look at that.
Okay.
No. So I think it will be 2 weeks from now. We'll give you the dates. We will be generous about the dates, because I think all of us are in mid-exams or doing something or quite busy about something. But I don't think we're going to be too hectic. So it will be mostly for the publication, and then the one for the online would also then pace ourselves throughout with that one also. So
thank you.
Yeah, but we will push the publication one, and we will send out the feedback this week with Karina to those that we need particular write-ups. But otherwise, everybody else, you now see, and if you want to rewrite, write to you. So some of the chapters are fine, and you would like to just rework it now that you've heard and you're inspired, please submit and resubmit. That's great. And most of them are fine, and we will just write back and say it's fine, or just check this or do this. Okay. Chipape?
Cool. I just wanted to say I really enjoyed all the presentations, and I think it's a great privilege to be part of this incredible project. And I look forward to the feedback on the work that I submitted, especially that we don't have time that I present. So thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you so much. Yes, Chipape is a fine artist, and he is doing a really lovely retrospective look, also reflecting about it. He's in the reflection section around the work that he's done on Marikana. So we will definitely give feedback. Lalu?
I've put it in the chat. Something that I find quite particularly profound, it's an intergenerational aspect that is emerging, not only in age, but also in experience of scholarly discourse. And it makes me very hopeful about South Africa, about Africa and peace. Me, I'm feeling very, very inspired, and I'm grateful that Nokulunga and Siposetu could come, because it's a very, very, very difficult time for exams now. So thank you, everyone. I cannot believe that I'm in the same room with all 14, 20 of you. Thanks.
Thank you. And thank you for staying. We thought you were leaving earlier. So Thank you for staying. Okay. I will read. Khomoto had to leave, but he sent us a message. He sent me a message. So I will read Khomoto's message. And he was saying, many thanks. So lovely to meet everyone and to hear a little bit about the projects. So his work is musical scores, and he's looking at a selection of musical scores and inserting them into the piece and having a conversation with the music. And he has rewritten like old hymnals that's in South Africa that are quite popular in South Africa and reworked them for a modern day audience or church pieces. So he's really reworking it. He's currently in the Bundus, and therefore the internet is not holding quite well, but he's very happy that he'll be sharing his recordings and also sharing all that he heard today. So thank you everyone for sharing your work and inspiring all of us to come back and get the program rolling. There are other topics in the chat. Jemima has shared the 2 sites that she's worked on, the one that we've done, the Nexus one, and the other one, Sound and Soil. And Lalu says Tebuho, Letabo. Those are people's names. I'm joking, but we're very happy. Wonderful project, and the exercise of contributing has been liberating, super dope. Many thanks, very humbled to be part of the project. Thank you all. Thank you, everyone. And thank you. Have a great Saturday. Look at us. We made it within 1 hour, 45 minutes. You can have... I
just want to say thank you, Dr. Raffaele, for chairing this, facilitating this, and for pouring so much energy into this.
Oh, look, I'm muted. Thank you, everyone. Have a good Saturday. I give you back. Antonio, here's your sleep. 15 more minutes. Much love. Love you all. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Peace and love.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, everyone. Make up a morning.
Thank you.